Okay, we're going to move into now a couple of forms that you want to use in a hot market. I call these hot market disclosures and acknowledgments. And what these two forms are is the buyer's acknowledgement of adverse consequence. And this is when a buyer starts waiving things like home inspections, radon. I'm going to waive the septic and well inspections. And the second one is a sight unseen acknowledgement and release form for buyers who decide to put an offer in on a property that they've not even seen yet. So we'll start with this one. The buyer's acknowledgement of potential adverse consequences is a Northern Virginia Association of Realtor form. Again, by the way, these are Virginia forms that we're talking about for the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors. So this form is not part of the sales contract and is for discussion and disclosure purposes only. So this is between the brokerage and the buyer. That's what we're doing here first. So the acknowledgement of potential consequences is signed concurrent with an offer submitted by, it's got the buyer's name, the date, and the property that they are writing on. And the buyer is represented by, and you have your name written here, and then the brokerage name, KW United. In submitting an offer, certain contract provisions may be waived or not utilized, some of which are referenced below. Buyer's decision regarding these and other contract terms may lead to potentially adverse consequences. So we're just letting them know if you waive these, there may be some adverse consequences later when you move into the property and find out that there are things wrong with the property that you were not aware of. The challenge in a hot market, it is not unusual for people to waive a home inspection or to waive financing or to waive an appraisal. And so this form is just, I know you said that, and I know you wrote down that we're waiving appraisal and we're waiving financing or we're waiving the well water test, but I'm just making sure, again, that you know there could be some adverse consequences when we do that. So let's talk about the different sections that they could be waiving. One is the conventional FHA, VA, and or USDA financing contingency. So they're waiving finance. Why would a buyer waive finance? It could be that this particular buyer is so well established financially that they are definitely approved for this. Their lender has said, oh yeah, they're good to go. They're golden. And so they would say, well, I don't want to have that financing contingency. I know I'm going to get approved. I have 800 score. I got plenty of income and assets, and I'm not borrowing more money than I can afford to borrow. So this is not really a contingency that I think I need. So they may waive that one. The other, which is pretty big, is the appraisal contingency. So maybe they haven't waived the financial, but they're in a property, they're bidding up several thousands of dollars. Let's say they're at $700,000 and they go up to 750, and then the property appraises only at 725. Well, now the buyer has to come up with that extra $25,000, or they've got to negotiate. But if the buyer is waiving the appraisal contingency, it means the buyer is moving forward regardless of the value of the property. Now, the appraisal contingency, the buyer can waive it as a contingency, but they may not be able to waive it, depending on what kind of financing they get. They may not be able to waive it for the bank to appraise it. The bank has to know, well, what's the appraised value? You're bidding 750, but I need, as the lender, I need to know how much I can lend you according to the latest appraisals going on in the community. So they come back at 750. You got 750, not a problem. You can get the 80% loan you're looking to get. If it comes in at 700 and they can still only get 80% of the 700, that means they can only get $560,000 on the mortgage, and they were going to put 20% down. They were going to put $140,000 down. Fine, but now if they went up to 750, they now have to come up with that extra $50,000 on the appraisal contingency if they are waiving it. Home inspection contingency, radon testing contingency, those are probably the two most waived contingencies that we have in a hot market. Well water potability test. The testing of well water is not that expensive, but if you have an issue with it and it comes back that it's got some mold, not mold, but it has E. coli or something wrong with the water, then it's going to be on you as the buyer to fix that problem. You may have to do a shock treatment on it of chlorine to get rid of the stuff that's in it. You may have to put in a UV ray treatment, which kills everything. That's about a $1,500 fix. And then there's the well inspection. Is the well itself in good shape? Am I willing to waive that contingency? Septic inspection contingency. I sell quite a few of homes with septic inspection contingencies. I just tell them, if you can't test it, then back away. Okay. And the reason being, this is a very expensive contingency to waive. Let's say you waive the home inspection. Okay. And you go in and you move in and you find $5,000 worth of issues, or $8,000 or $10,000, or maybe you have a foundational issue. That can be a flexible expense. You maybe can wait a little longer on the foundation, but you got to get it fixed. Well, a foundation fix can be $20,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. A septic, if that comes back bad, if it's just the distribution points, got it. Maybe it's $3,000. If it's the septic tank and the distribution system, that's a $30,000 problem. So this is one I really don't want people to waive, and fortunately, I've never had anyone have to waive it on the contracts that I've been involved in. Sale and settlement of buyer's property contingency. So you have to sell your house first before you can go to closing on this other property. We have a contingency addendum that the buyer will sign off. I've either got to sell my house, it's not on the market yet, or I'm on the market and I've got a contract, so I just got to settle. Some buyers will strike that, which means if that falls out before they go to closing on the new property, what could happen is that now they have to carry two mortgages. If they can't carry two mortgages, then they may have to cancel the contract and lose their deposit and maybe even more. So this is the buyer's acknowledgement of potential adverse consequences. It's a disclosure or an acknowledgement form for the buyer. It's not part of the contract. Okay. The next one on disclosure, the final one here on this video, is the sight unseen acknowledgement, but also it's an acknowledgement and a release that you're releasing KW United from any liability on the fact that you're buying this thing sight unseen. Okay. You know it's a hot market. You've seen it online. You've gone through the videos and you've seen seen what you have there with the pictures. Maybe you sent the agent down to look through it and do a live stream through it, and you say, "This is it. I'm going to sign it." Okay, people do that. Even before a hot market, a lot of military wound up buying sight unseen. So it's not unusual. It's not uncommon. It's just not a regular way of buying property. So on this one, we are having the buyer sign off that here's the property. You haven't seen it or inspected it, but you're buying it anyway. You're putting an offer in anyway. So you're acknowledging that you've been advised by, put in your name, Anthony Carr or whatever, agent for broker of KW United, that we should not enter into the offer without personally reviewing and inspecting the property. Contrary to said advice, we wish to execute the offer with the intent of entering into a binding agreement to purchase the property sight unseen. So this is where when someone says, well, what if I just put an offer in without having seen it? This is where, as an agent, you say, well, I don't advise that. Bang. You now just hit this tab number one. I'm telling you, I don't advise that. The next paragraph, we hereby release Anthony and KW United, their agents and employees, from any and all claims arising from our failure to personally review or inspect the property prior to executing the offer. You see where this is going? You haven't seen this $750,000 property, but you're writing an offer anyway. So, excuse me, you're trying to find, you as a buyer, I'm trying to win, and I'm willing to do it without seeing it because it's such a hot market. But you're also saying, I further acknowledge that we are aware the contract should have a home inspection period during which the undersigned has an opportunity to inspect the property, have the property inspected by others, and terminate the contract by the end of the home inspection period without further liability. However, if the undersigned does not terminate said contract by the end of the home inspection period, the undersigned will be obligated to purchase the property under the terms set forth in said contract, whether they have personally inspected the property or not. We have understood, or we understand we may have access to the property during the home inspection period or other time prior to closing as granted by the terms of the contract. So this paragraph is pointing out to the buyer, these are things in the contract that you're going to have access to. There's a time element, and then you've got a certain amount of time to look at it, negotiate with it, or cancel the contract. So that's what this acknowledgement form is for. Again, it's for the buyers. It's not part of the contract. It's just an acknowledgement and a release. The buyer signs it, the agent signs it, and the broker signs it. Okay, so those are the two forms that we have here that in a hot market, when buyers are looking to write offers that do not include inspections and contingencies, or they're going to buy it sight unseen, we want them to sign off that I've disclosed to you that this may be, there may be adverse consequences for you to do this, and that you may have to be on the dime for expenses that you wouldn't have if you had had these contingencies and things in place. Okay, thanks so much. Talk to you later.